how can Latter-day Saints celebrate the ancient practice of Passover? And what might that do to our Easter worship? Well, a few years ago, my wife and I, we made the decision that we wanted Easter to be a little bit more focused on Christ rather than the Easter bunny and the Easter eggs and all that fun stuff. Somewhere along that process of trying to make Easter more about Christ, we took a stab at the Passover meal. And to be honest with you, our first attempt was not very elegant. It wasn't traditional at all. We didn't cook lamb. We used substitutes for most of the symbolic parts of the meal. I mispronounced half the Hebrew words. It was very chaotic. And yet, it was very memorable. And look, we have regular Sunday meals with our extended family when we can. But this one hit different. It was sacred, and it was weird. And new, and even the kids enjoyed this experience. So now, year after year, we look forward to celebrating Passover. Today, I want to share with you how you can celebrate the Passover as a Latter-day Saint family, not to replace Easter or to pretend to be Jewish, but to connect more deeply with the story of Passover, with Christ, who we know is at the center of the symbolic Passover, and to connect us to that covenant story that we're all a part of.
Blessed are your eyes, for they see.
So when I first started to think about Passover, 3 scenes came to mind, and maybe this is just me, but the first was Fiddler on the Roof, right? This Sabbath scene where a Jewish family gathers around sunset, the candles are lit, blessings are spoken, they start to sing, and you could feel that this tradition, it's not just a habit for them, it's like a part of their identity, and their whole world revolves around it. Of course, this is a scene of just their weekly Sabbath day celebration and not Passover, which is even more impressive. But it gives you a feel of this sort of Jewish tradition, right? The Jewish people have survived exile and persecution and dispersion over thousands of years. And one of the primary reasons that they survived is because of their memory and their history. And it's being told in their homes around the tables and through ritual regularly. And more on that later. The second scene that comes to mind, of course, is Christ celebrating the Passover at the Last Supper. He tells stories. He sang a hymn. He breaks bread. And of course, what's unique about that Passover is Christ is recontextualizing the Passover to be about him, his body, his blood, the gift that he would give us. And of course, the third and most prominent scene I think of when I think of Passover is the first Passover in Egypt, when the Israelites were in bondage. The lamb was slain, the blood was put on the doorpost, and the angel passed over. And that sort of initial God delivering his people from slavery is what started the Passover tradition in the first place. And forever since then, every year as the Jews celebrate Passover, it's not just about a meal, right? It's about remembering of God's covenant, the deliverance from bondage. In Exodus 12, it says, "Observe this ceremony, and when your children ask, 'What does this ceremony mean to you?' then tell them, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.'" So this ritual of Passover is designed to provoke questions and to teach the next generation. Like, why are we eating bitter herbs? Why are we dipping greens in the salt water? Why are we telling this story again? Why are we getting dressed up for dinner and having a new meal and singing hymns and lighting candles? We're doing it to remember and to teach. Well, recently I spoke to Dr. Dolahite from BYU about sacred family rituals and building resilience and identity in children. And here's one of the things that he said about Passover.
Whenever we start sharing a personal sacred experience, that has the opportunity to bring the Spirit in a way that I think nothing else can. There's unique power in story. And just when someone starts telling you about last week when I was facing this challenge and I did this thing, then this was the consequence. We're, as human beings, we're hardwired to be interested in story. We will stop whatever we're doing. If someone starts telling a story, we'll really pay attention. Like in a church meeting, if someone is just talking along and, we're thinking about our day or our stresses or our anxieties, whatever, the minute someone starts to share an experience, we tune into that, right? We can't help ourselves. So when you combine sacred experience with the power of just sharing stories, that has the ability to allow the Spirit to touch people's hearts and minds.
And I'm going to get to how to celebrate Passover in just 1 minute, but our prophet, President Oaks, has also emphasized the importance of sharing family stories as teaching tools and lessons in the home. So this form of sacred storytelling, it's powerful. So how can we do it? How can we celebrate Passover in our homes? If you're going to try to make Passover dinner special, start by making it special. Make it different. Make it feel different than a Tuesday night dinner. Dim the lights, light the candles, print out a program, dress up, whatever you need to do to just make it special. I say that's like bare minimum basics. Talk about Jesus and make it different. If you can include some elements of maybe a more traditional Passover meal. When people hear Passover, they usually think about food like the lamb and the unleavened bread or the bitter herbs, right? But when Jewish people celebrate Passover, it's built around a few main elements. The first is going to be the symbolic meal. But the second element is this program, the kind of storytelling script that they call the Haggadah. I hope I'm saying that right. Storytelling is really the heart of the entire evening. So before you go and cook a lamb or make a nice meal, see if you can find a program and then build your meal around that program. You can find any number of Haggadah programs online, traditional Jewish ones, kid-friendly ones. You can find Christian ones that are similar to the Christ's Passover, where he's talking about, do this in remembrance of me, that sort of thing. There's even Latter-day Saint adaptations, which I'll include in the link, from Dr. Dollahide, who took the Exodus story and connected it to the pioneer story and deliverance themes and restoration themes. It's the feast of the restoration rather than the feast of the Passover, which I think is awesome. So this is how we did it. We found a program that works and that we liked. I slashed a few sections out because my kids are young and I needed to keep it short. But once I could read the program and imagine, okay, this is when we're going to use the herbs and this is when we're going to eat this part, it helped me then plan the rest of the meal and what we needed to assign to different family members to make it happen. And it's critical that you do have a program, because the program is what imbues stories into the meal and also gives you structure. It has prayers and questions and responses and hymns sometimes. It invites everyone to participate in the ritual. And it even creates moments where the children interrupt and ask, why are we doing this? Why are we dipping the herbs in the thing, right? For example, one of the symbolic moments in the Passover is you take a green vegetable like parsley or celery or something, right? And you dip it into salt water. And as simple as that sounds, you're just dipping a thing in salt water. The Haggadah, the script, will then explain the symbolic representation. We're doing this because the salt water represents the tears shed in slavery. And so when you dip it and then taste it, you're tasting the sorrow and the hope together in that symbolic act. And then you taste it. You taste the bitter herbs. In our house, I think we use ginger to represent the bitter herbs. And we're really whatever you can find to make the kids kind of squint a little bit. And then someone reads out loud, "Blessed art thou, Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us with thy commandments and commanded us to eat the bitter herbs." And then you eat it and it's bitter and you kind of feel that. And then you talk about bondage and you talk about the oppression in Egypt and how God delivered them. And it just becomes really thoughtful and meaningful. It's fun. It's fun. Okay, one more. Because there's this sweet mixture called charoset, I'm not sure. It's like apples and cinnamon and crushed nuts. I think we use peanut butter. And it's supposed to represent like the bricks and mortar, the mortar used by Hebrew slaves in Egypt. And so you eat this to remember that their forced labor and the 400 years of bondage and that sort of thing. Again, once you pick out your program, you'll be able to see the list of here's what you need to prepare in the meal. And you can totally do your own version of it. But it's really fun to have those symbolic elements. And traditionally, the lamb or the shank bone is placed on the table to remind you of that first lamb that was sacrificed in Passover. Now, I'll be honest, we've never successfully cooked a lamb. We usually eat fish with our Passover meal, but it's like fish and then the unleavened bread and some hummus and just whatever toppings, and it's fantastic, right? But you get the point. And especially if you download some sort of a Christian Haggadah, then you might go through sections of the Last Supper and talk about the blood of Christ and the body of Christ and the sacrifice that he gave us on Passover. And then suddenly the Passover meal, it's not just a painting to your family, to your kids. It really becomes real. It's like, oh man, imagine what it would have been like. And it's so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling. One really unique part of the Seder, which is part of the Haggadah, I believe, Seder, I don't know how to say it. It's the washing of the hands. So the leader, whoever's leading the kind of script, they will pour water over the hands and say something like, let's wash our hands, or as we watch, let us remember our commitment to God to have a clean hands and a pure heart. What a cool ritual to invite kids to be a part of, to teach them the language of ritual and how we can symbolically wash. I think all Latter-day Saints should be pretty hyped about the opportunity to maybe introduce some ritual into a meal like this. And that's what's so great about the symbolic elements. It's like children, they might not remember all the scriptures or the quotes or different things, but they're gonna remember that the Passover meal is special, it's symbolic, it's ritualistic. And if you're intentional about it, it's a great opportunity to invite the Spirit into your home, to have an opportunity to share sacred stories. And I think it's a major win. When they think of Easter, they think of that really cool dinner that they have as a family, rather than the candy and the Easter egg hunt. So again, I will link a few resources below so you can make the best of Passover. I mean, do it, try it, it's awesome. I invite you to try something different, even if it's just 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But find a program that's going to fit your family, tell some stories, interact with the ritual, eat good food, and remember Christ. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, by small and simple screens, worldviews are formed.